Wow, this is a big guy. He'll be up here someday. Thank you very much, Carson. Carson Carpenter, thank you.
We are the common cause, we are the common people, and we only put America first. Welcome back to the Common Cause, everybody. It is a beautiful Friday, June 26, 2026. Here we have an amazing show with one of the top political far-right influencers on all of social media. He hosts a podcast called Paint the Town Red podcast. He's somebody who's very outspoken for his beliefs. He's also somebody who is known as the N-word, and not that N-word that talks about a racial minority in this country. It's another N-word that people refer him as because of his views. His views tend to be very nationalistic. They tend to be very far right, and somebody that we want to get a lot of answers on a lot of issues today. But welcome back to The Common Cause, everybody. Make sure to follow us on every platform at The Common Cause Show, and like, subscribe, comment on YouTube, and listen anywhere you get your podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, even iHeartRadio is still a thing, believe it or not. But anyway, I would like to introduce somebody to the show who's very controversial, very outspoken, like I said, and somebody who it will be a very interesting interview that will be had here today. Chance Minton, thank you for coming on the show, brother. It's great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
And first, Chance, I would like to dive into some of your beliefs. Now, people have mentioned you as a nationalist, but they've also used another N-word to describe you. And I would like for you to clear up, do you believe that you are a National Socialist?
Look, my heart goes out to those people, okay? I would never classify myself as somebody who is that N-word. I don't know if I could say that on this show, but what I would say is that there has been a giant diversion away from being a nationalist. And every time you're a nationalist, they pretty much call you that in order to minimize your message. And so the reason why I go out on a limb and sort of say things that are right up next to that N-word is because I'm trying to de-arm them. Same with the N-word, same with all of these words that are off limits. When you give them power, they utilize that power. If you do what I do and pretty much muddy the waters, then guess what? It takes those words' powers away. And that's what I seek to do on the internet.
And you're somebody who is still on Instagram. You haven't been banned from any major platform. Am I correct with that?
I have been banned from TikTok and Discord and TikTok a bunch of times, but no, I have not been banned. I've been deep, like on Instagram, I get my views taken down, or like they make it to where I don't reach as much people all the time. And like right now, you'll see my five recent posts have like 2,000 views or something, and so I'm on a ban there. And then messaging, I can't message anybody half the time, stuff like that. But yeah, they allow me to stay on Instagram. I tote the line as close as possible.
Yeah, and on some of your Instagram posts, among other platforms posts, you don a certain imagery, a certain symbolism of that certain N-words paraphernalia, essentially, on your head, on your shirt, everything else. Is that something that you truly believe in, or is that something as a symbol, like you said, to articulate that you should be able to say whatever you want in this country?
Yeah, and if you're listening to this and you go like, well, what I like, da, 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 da. It's like, well, hold on here. I don't disagree with you. I'm not saying that I don't like them. I'm saying I am not them. I am an American. They are a particular group of people from the 1930s Germany. I'm American. So I wouldn't classify myself as that. But what I would say is that they had a lot of ideas that would solve a lot of our problems today. And a lot of the problems that they brought up happens to be the exact same problems that we're dealing with today. Also, on the other note of being banned or being restricted, it's like, yeah, I'm not restricted on Instagram alone, but I've been fired from my job working for the Republican Party because I brought up that before I said anything, I never said the N-word. I was super straight and narrow. I never did anything that would cause for me to be fired. I mentioned on an Instagram post one time when I had no followers that racially mixing in intermarriages was being promoted by one group of people. And it was the writers of a show called No Jumper, or no, not No Jumper. It was a Netflix show with this white girl who pretty much gets with black men when she has a white husband cheating on them. And I exposed that the writers of that show were Jewish. They fired me for that. The Republicans, the so-called racists, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Those people, they fired me for that. And so after that, I go, wait a minute, what's going on here? I look, and you know how it is. Every county usually has one or two Congress members that kind of runs the show, or it's the political consultant behind them. That's who runs the show in politics. That's who has all the control in our nation, essentially. And this Congress member was getting paid by this group. And I had said other things that probably would have been grounds for complaining at least. No complaints. But as soon as I mentioned that group, that was it. They fired me immediately. And this, when you're in politics, if you've been in politics, you know, there is dirt that happens with politicians and people in the industry all of the time. You're constantly covering each other's back. It's like a team because the other side's trying to attack you. They're going into your lives. They're finding out about your marriage. They're finding out about your kids, and they're trying to attack you and find their angle. And so I've been in politics for years, and I was constantly having my constituents back as a team game. But all of a sudden, I slip up, make this one mistake, and they say, no, that's it. You're no longer on our team. And I went, wait a minute, what is my team? Is my team this group that cares so deeply about another minority group in our nation? That doesn't make sense to me. And then that slowly started waking me up to the realities of who actually is in control.
And speaking of your time with the Republican Party, I'd like to play your most viral clip. It's actually calling out Republicans for being gay as well as Democrats, but also using alliteration of words to show that. Let's play the clip. Isn't it funny how that is the most viral video out of anything that you've covered? You've covered in-depth topics. You've talked about the social reality of the United States, and that's the most viral clip. But to dive into that, you say that Republicans are openly racist but secretly gay, and Democrats are openly gay and secretly racist. Do you believe that our political system is completely broken and there needs to be a third option?
Well, that's a good question, and it's a deep question that requires lots of time to answer. But what I would say to that is, I don't believe that our system is beyond fixing. And that you might disagree with that, and a lot of people do disagree with that, especially in Gen Z. They think that there's no political solution and that a revolution in a physical way is our only way out of this. I disagree with that. I think we can work within the system that we have now in order to dismantle it in some way politically, so that way we can instill change. I still believe that. I love America. I love what the values it stands for. You know, we're a republic. I don't want, unlike, you know, the Nazis, I don't want to be a dictatorship, or like Nick Fuentes says, a religious oligarchy, or you know, any of those things. I don't agree with that one bit. I think we should remain a republic. It gives the people the most rights, and I do want that to be for our people. Now, are we being taken advantage of, and can we do that now with all the other groups in our nation? No. And do we need massive change? Yes. Do we need a strong man to come in, break down the walls, and actually deliver on something? 100% I agree with you. But I also don't want to take that too far to where then we're in the backside of that situation of being in a dictatorship where no other person can rise up, and we're stuck with that person and then his kids, who are most likely going to be spoiled brats. So, yeah.
So you say the system that kicked you out of it, which is the Republican Party, right? You believe that they'll get to a point where they'll accept somebody like yourself who is a self-proclaimed Christian nationalist again? Do you think with our generation and younger people, it could get to that point in the next 10 years?
Oh, 100%. I mean, yeah, no doubt about it. Within maybe even a few years, you're seeing all these people wake up, even yourself. You know, what you have said on your Instagram would have never been said by gentlemen like yourself, from ASU, president of the College of Young Republicans, that would have never been said 2 years ago. Now, if you don't say it, you're weird. So, no, I definitely think things are changing. I think that we're waking up, and I think it's a good thing. Boomers, like I said, the time is on our side, and I don't want to say that and then you're like, oh yeah, we're good, let's just chill. No, we're not chilling. We got to push the gas because there's a lot of problems we got to solve now. But I would say that time is on our side in the way that boomers are getting old, they're retiring, they're leaving office, things like this. And so we have an opportunity now to wake up millennials and say, hey, you don't have to be a cuck, okay? You can actually say what you believe, actually, and you will be popular for it. Isn't that crazy? I know it's past your imagination. You could say, I want America to be a Christian nation. Oh, no, don't say that. You have to lie. You've got to lie and play all these games and be a Machiavellian playing 4D chess in order to get your way and make everybody believe that you're milquetoast and you're there for everyone. No, we're not here for everyone. You're here for our people, and our people are the American people who are Christian and the heritage Americans. That's who we're here for. That's who I'm here for.
And you said you want America to retain a republic. You want it to not be a fascist state. And I would like to play another clip. I'd love to talk into the racial issues, the racial strife that we have in this country that has gotten extremely worse in the 2020s, especially since we've grown up and become younger men. I would like to play this next clip showing the degeneracy that we tend to see with a lot of minority communities in this country that also prey on a lot of our younger white women. Let's take a look.
Pick up a guy's girlfriend, typically a smaller guy and a smaller girl, so younger, like high school age. He picks him up, he puts him like this, and he goes like this with him over and over again, and it looks very sexual and disgusting, and he's dominating these women. This big black dude is right in front of her boyfriend. And oftentimes the girl's like, all right, get off. It's really disgusting and vile. That's why you see people like Chud the Builder who are going online and saying, hey, guess what? We can do that too. We can go out and we can say stuff and expose you for being rat animals that you are. It's easy to say as an older person in your castle that you live in, that you've owned since the 60s, about that's horrible and all you do is you go to the grocery market and come home. But for the rest of us youth that are in America that have to inherit this total mess that you've given us, we have to compete against these people on the internet, Another thing that's funny about it is he's being banned on every single platform. Whereas the black guy that's taking white women's, dudes' girlfriends and shaking them up and down like that and showing off their ass to the whole world, guess what? He's not banned. He's skating free. And if anyone were to do anything to him, that everyone would be like, he's racist, he's racist. No, it's disgusting. We are not going to be made fun of like that anymore. We are done with that. And that is what Chud the Builder and the youth is saying. And if you don't like that, well, I don't care. You're gay. That's what I think. Go watch Vrilliam's show. You're a Vrilliam fan if you don't think that Chud the Builder is cool.
And Chance, I have to ask, in the movement, who are some of your biggest ops? Who are some of the people that you think aren't furthering the movement? You mentioned Virillium at the end of that clip, but who are some of the other ones that you can mention?
Virillium. I don't typically care for Virillium. He just seems to be very, he does anything to sort of appeal to what he thinks will make him popular. And so you're seeing him LARP as a racist of some kind, but then he goes on and he, talks about how we need to mix with Mexicans and all this stuff. And so, I have, and then also too, his past. We all know what's gone on with him. I don't know if you do know. Are you familiar with what's going on? Yeah,
I am. But give the audience a little bit of a brief.
So I don't want to attack Virillium because, I just don't care. That's why. But apparently he used to be gay. He used to be, a person who, and he posted pictures of himself, or he didn't post pictures. Somebody found the pictures and posted it on all over X, and he got exposed for doing that. But it's really not about that for me. I think people can be forgiven by God, and then they can redeem themselves in some way. It's more about his attitude. And we see that he's overweight, and he's not somebody who I want to be spearheading a strong man movement. A strong man movement, in my opinion, should be led by jacked, good, smart, strong men. And he is not that. Sorry, but like I said, he's not really my ops. I just don't really care. I really don't have any ops. My biggest ops is probably just the boomers in my local area. I actually try to compete locally in politics, and there's a lot of Republicans here that just despise me, and they do everything they can. They've gotten me fired from. I have a business. They've got clients taken away from me. They've kicked me out of every party, every social group, political groups that I'm a part of. I was the vice chair for the Kern County Young Republicans, and they've essentially kicked me out of all those things, and then spread word to the state party and to everyone around in all of California that I am and that's what kind of propelled me to go on and do the sticker on my head and all that stuff like that, because it's a joke. It's like, are you kidding me? You think if I'm a Nazi, then I guess we're all Nazis, because I have common beliefs as everyone my age, everyone around me believes exactly what I believe. I'm just talking for them.
And that's what I wanted to dive into the interview, was to figure out your thinking a lot of this, because a lot of people will see your videos on surface value and not even dive into that, not even talk about why may he be doing this? Why is he putting a Nazi sticker on his head and is in a tractor or a car or whatever, right? A lot of people will just see it at surface value and paint you out to be this villain. But also, I am going to challenge your narrative and ask you a question. You're a Christian nationalist that believes in a republic, but also believes there needs to be a strong man movement. There needs somebody who's strong and willing to challenge the system. Are you just explaining a 2016 Trump, or does it have to be somebody who goes a lot further than that? And our world's definitely primed for somebody who could go a lot further than that, especially now.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good way of putting it. A Trump 2016, but stronger. I think that's a great way of putting it. Because what happens is, as over time, there becomes a weight of bureaucracy. Okay, so anything the government does, right? You go to pick up trash, and this is what I deal with firsthand with my business. You go to pick up trash on the side of the road, and as a private business owner, that would only cost you maybe $25 paying gas and an hour of work for an employee, right? So $35, whatever, in California. Whereas if the government does it, now it costs $78 to do. And you go, wait, why? Well, because everybody's taking their cut in the government. And how big is that cut? The higher you go up the totem pole, the bigger the cut. And so that makes it to where anything we do as a people through the government sucks. And a lot of people have seen, why did we not go back to the moon? Why did we just stop? Well, this is one of the reasons. There's so much bureaucracy, and we're not able to just get anything done. And I seek to burn that to the ground, because that's what needs to happen. We need to have mass layoffs. We need to fire these people, and we need to start doing what is important. And what is important is keeping us safe, but also reinstilling our culture, reinstilling who we are as Americans. That is vitally important, and that's what I would seek to do. Also, another thing, because you said, Christian nationalists. Yes, exactly right. I would also dismantle, which I really don't have to dismantle it. People say there's a separation of church and state. No, there's not. There's actually not. That was a letter written. There's not a binding document to our government in any way. And courts have used that, and they've established this narrative that there is a separation of church and state. There's actually not. And I would also tear that down. And for that reason, I would be a republic light, because I would want the church to be the one. We organize with churches. That is how people in America organize. I want to utilize that and empower us. The homeless issue, perfect example. I could solve the homeless issue in 5 days if we just change the way we fund it. Right now, I'm in California, and my business gets paid taking care of homeless people. Okay, that's what I do. I'm in the industry. Now, these companies, they're nonprofits. They have 2 employees, but yet you would think they have 60, the amount of money they're getting. They take all the money, they give it back to the politician. The politician then lobbies for them to get more money, and it's a circle of corruption. We all know what's happening. Spencer Pratt has brought this up time and time again. Everybody knows it now. But I would fix it with one simple move, because Pratt never said this. If you take that money and you put it back into the church, churches are already nonprofits. It would be so easy. All you would do is take it back to the church. Now, there's going to be some churches that are corrupt and do the exact same thing as the nonprofits do, yes. But it would be a lot harder. Why?
Evangelical churches with Israel, for example.
Yes, but and obviously we'd have to monitor them and have regulations and stuff, of course. But those are all going to take problems, and it's going to take a while to figure out all the details, the nitty-gritty details. But essentially what the move would be is cycling that money to the churches. Churches will show up to homeless people for a very cost-effective way, by the way. A lot of the times they're already doing it right now for free. It's already crowdfunded right now. My church, like for instance, we pay a tithe, and that tithe money goes to helping the community and helping people around. And they do it for very little pay. A lot of them are volunteering, including myself. We all volunteer to do it. So, and then you see these nonprofits with brand new buses, brand new outfits, all of this stuff. And their rate of turning people away from drugs, because homeless problem is a drug problem, not a homeless problem, or not a home problem. Our rates are way astronomically better than these nonprofits, and yet we're underfunded and they have all the money in the world. It makes no sense. I would shift that money to the churches, and I would solve the homeless problem within literally weeks.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I actually did an episode of the show when I was talking about that. If we funneled money to the churches, it would take it out of the government's hands, right? I think we all agree that's a good thing. But it would also give them more incentive and more legislative power for our government to enforce actual audits on these churches, financial audits, everything else. Whereas right now they can money launder out the wazoo. They can take money from foreign nations without being audited for it, among other things. It's a total disgrace. But to weave back to the degeneracy topic, and especially with our racial strife in America, they go hand in hand, right? You've seen the rise of evil and sinful things like OnlyFans, of the adult industry, among other things in our country, and evil moves way quicker than good to repair it, right? And within our country, our legislative process is even slower than the good that's trying to repair it. What's one way in our country that we could fix and actually solve the degeneracy issue and not just put a Band-Aid on a bullet hole?
Well, I think the first step would be identifying it. So the way you identify it, because you remember, half of the nation doesn't think that that is degeneracy. They think that that's freedom. So that would be the first thing, identifying that it's a problem, getting our strongman into position to back up what we are saying and what is American and what is right and what is wrong. Now, people will say, you can't do that. That's like Hitler or whatever. Okay. Yes, there are going to be details about this that we have to figure out. It's not all just one quick plan that we're going to solve everything tomorrow. That's not going to happen. But what we could do is start identifying that, our birth rate is down. Why don't we ask the question of why? And instead of just immigrating people from other nations, which kills our sovereignty, why don't we ask the question why? Why don't we do that? And then you go down the line of finding out why, and then let's start working backwards and solving some of those issues. America is supposed to be protecting us against monopolies. A republic is ripened for corruption. We've seen that in Rome. We see that in every republic, right? All of these businesses pretty much control the industry, and then it becomes a monopoly. And the government's supposed to step in when that happens and break up the monopolies. So that way it gives the everyday Americans opportunities to have to have money and to actually do things. And I'm not suggesting go in and just take down all the monopolies. No, of course not. But in some way, like with Hollywood is a big example, we should be going in and making sure that our people are the ones controlling Hollywood. They have a ton of power. They decide what our kids think. And so we need to make sure that we're being represented and our interests are being represented. And the best way to do that is, like I said, first step, identifying the problem and then working backwards. Quit OnlyFans, outlaw. Those are the types of things we need to do. But how do you know that that's right or wrong? Christian values. If you can't admit that, if you're a person who's, I'm a person that's Christian, but I think everyone should exist. Well, then why is porn bad? You have to ask yourself that. We need to have the power in order to fix these problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was this story I was told about by a friend yesterday. There was a rabbi at the P-Hub headquarters in Canada who was shot by a woman cop because there was a Muslim fleeing who just committed a crime for shooting somebody else. And the woman cop didn't shoot the Muslim, shot the rabbi running out of the headquarters for the P-Hub. Like, this is the society that we live in, right? We live in such a broken, messed up society, not to sound black-pilled, but you see situations like this, a crazy hyperbole actually happening in real life, and you see it in our cities all the time. Chicago, Atlanta, Charlotte, all these southern cities, and even northern cities that have higher populations of minorities, of degeneracy, of everything else. some call it freedom, we call it stupidity and neglect to our culture. Now, the big thing I would like to show next is a picture of you having a facial mask of this black charcoal stuff on you. I'm not going to call it because I'm going to give you benefit of the doubt. I don't think it's blackface. Look, you were just getting smooth skin, right? Like we all want that, right? So if any way you could put it up, I would love to show that picture and ask you a question, Chance, is if you still want this republic institution, even though it's ripe for corruption, among other things, how is posting stuff like this and having a reactionary viewpoint necessarily going to open up a umbrella for new people to join in on this? Or do you just believe they should just join you at all costs?
Great question. And yes, they should just join me at all costs. No, no, that's a great question. I get this a lot. Guys, I'm not running for president. I'm not the president. I'm an influencer online, right? I tell you what I would like, but like I'm not myself running. I'm funny. I'm a comedian. I do politics. I complain about everybody. That's what I do. And so that's where this comes from, doing funny things like this. But what I'm pointing out in this video, and if you go to the next one, it's I'm trying to do a lookalike like Kanye West, okay? So at the same time, it's like I'm making fun, but what I'm doing is I'm pointing out the fact that we're so soft as a society, and it's like there's one group of people that are very sensitive to anything that happens, and there's another group of people, us, that are very sensitive to not offending anyone. And so I'm trying to break that down and say, you know what? No. They make fun of us. We can make fun of them. It's funny. Everybody loves it. Why not? And it's as simple as
Absolutely.
that.
And you can remove the picture now, but the big thing that I would say is we saw this with Drewski and Erica Kirk, and then you saw it with Jake Paul doing the blackface back, even with our most powerful and most propped up people, right? They're starting to get into this wave of testing social norms, and you're a smaller fish in a big pond, yet when you do this, you get canceled out the wazoo. But when Jake Paul does it, he can prop up his body wash brand, he can prop up all this other stuff. Drewski can prop up his comedy career. Do you think there's a certain amount of elitism in this country that prevents people like you or me breaking through that glass ceiling?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's elitism. What I would say is what it is. First of all, Jake Paul he's converted, right? He's allowed to do whatever he wants. He's a part of that group that has all control of everything, and he can do no wrong, right? He's the golden child for them. So that's one aspect. And like I said, they have a lot of business connections. But here's the thing. And people will bring this up. They say, well, yeah, they do, but so do we. Yeah, we do, but we don't use them. That's the thing. If someone were to make fun of us, we're like, yeah, so what? He's good at doing whatever job that I'm hiring him for. I don't care. Whereas their group, they have a preference to themselves, and they also identify that they've been kicked out of every single society for all of history just about. And so they're sensitive to that. So if you make fun of them or do anything, they're going to fire you, cancel you, and call all their buddies to fire and cancel you as well. And that's what I'm arguing we need to do. And not like in a dumb way, like if you do someone wrong, no, we're still going to say, hey, just because you're white, sorry, you did something wrong. You still got to go to jail. You still have the consequences. I'm not going to help you. We should still be smart and retain our way of looking at things from right and wrong perspective, but also too identifying that we're also in the world. We're just because we have America, which has been the leading nation in the world, doesn't mean that we're risen above nature, God's plan, God's natural way of doing things. Sorry, we're just not. We're just like everybody else, and we have to humble ourselves and protect ourselves. But to your question about the elitism, I don't think it's that. I think what it is people are jealous. And so when you're on your come up, right, people around you are going to try and rip you down with them. That's just how it works. If there's one, like Nick Fuentes said this too, it's like, switch up on your day ones early because they're going to switch up on you. That is so true. Like, and I'm not saying that from a perspective of like having success, by the way. I'm just right in the middle of it. And I can definitely see that. Now, there are a few day ones that are always going to be good, of course, and shout out to them in my group. But no, I think that's what it is. I think that until you prove yourself and you have success, it's not okay. But if you do, then it is okay. That's just how the world works. It's kind of unfortunate, but, it makes it that much sweeter when you make it,
No, absolutely. And the day ones, I know who you're talking about. Are they involved in politics? Probably not, right? I mean, those are the real day ones that stick around. And Chance, I would like to ask you another question, and that's about the America 250 messaging, right? We've seen it obviously with the evangelicalness of this entire celebration. We've also seen that the rhetoric of America is going to last forever. America is going to be this greatest empire we've ever seen. Yet we literally elected a Muslim dude to president literally 10 years ago. So necessarily the American empire that they're trying to paint it at as America 250 is not as great as I think that we've seen it. And so my biggest question to you is this entire celebration a farce just to accentuate America's standing on the world stage?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not all the way against it. A lot of people are like, well, the government shouldn't be doing that because, this is like circuses and bread and stuff like that. And I'm kind of like, okay, but I mean, it's a nice event. I mean, they have pride parades, like, but what I would say is, yes, more so in the parade. Did you see the military parade before that, like about a year before?
Yeah.
So look at that military parade. They had like this music that was like, I'm driving my truck, I drink a beer. It's literally as if someone went into the White House and say, hey, we got to appeal to Trump's constituents, the ones in Virginia and all that. What music do they like? And they're like, let's listen to some. And they heard some rock and they heard some classics. And then they heard that. And it's like, drink beer. No. And they're like, yeah. That's the one. And then that's what they chose. And then if you look at the parade too, it's sloppy. They're out of order. They haven't practiced. It seems like, you go to Russia or you see Russia and China's parades and they're just like all in sync. It shows discipline and strength. That's what I would like to show. That's what I wish America would show. But instead we show this like, hey, you drink beer and drive a truck, you're my friend. And that's just not appealing to me. But honestly, that's just a small criticism I have of the whole event. I mean,
yesterday, did you see it? They were playing YMCA. It was a live version, which, by the way, imagine how disparaging that is for our soldiers, right? You're up on the stage on the National Mall. You have this amazing guy who has this amazing voice, and he has to sing the YMCA from a band of 5 gay dudes who are all different ethnicities, by the way, all this different stuff. And instead of playing Hail to the Chief when the president walks out, it's YMCA on the National Mall, disparaging 1, the office of the president, 2, our military band members, and 3, everybody that had to sit there and watch it. Like, imagine how embarrassing that must have felt being on the National Mall, Lincoln Memorial, and then you just hear the YMCA worst live cover you've ever heard.
Exactly. You said that perfectly. It's like, and it just goes back to what I said, these weak conservatives, they're not even conservative. They're like, we're appealing to everyone. Well, then guess what? If you stand with everyone, then you stand with no one. And that includes Jesus Christ. Because if you allow for these things to happen, what does it do? It shows our kids that it's okay and not a sin. That's what it does. That's the biggest message they're seeing right now. And that is wrong. We stand against that, and we're not scared to say we stand against it. You think the Democrats, because some, weirdo purple-haired Democrats are like, you have to accept gayness, and this is wrong. You're a fascist. You think obviously it scares them. That doesn't scare us. We're not scared of that. That is Satan's work, and we're going to talk against that every single day on the internet if that's what we have to do for the rest of the time until Gen Z is in power. Because this is wrong. I'm sorry to break your heart, Carson.
Whoa. Okay, Chance. Let's calm it down.
I know you had a thing going on. I just want to, sorry.
He was calling me donut. Isn't that extremely weird? Like, he said he's not gay, yet he goes on Jubilee and does 20 verse 1 against 20 men. Like, that's the gayest possible thing you can do. And so, Dean, look, get off my case, brother. It's not happening. And what I would also like to say to your point, Chance, is look at the black community, too. They say, well, you better pay for my EBT and my SNAP and shit. Yet they literally pay no taxes to our country, right? They pay barely any taxes and contribute nothing to our GDP, contribute nothing to our economy. They contribute absolutely nothing, essentially, except providing a net negative when it comes to all these government programs. I know it's not a sin, but it's borderline a sin to our nation as a whole. It's doing disvirtuous acts to us as the primary taxpayers. You see it with every tribalistic group, especially on the libtarded left. So,
you're exactly right. And just to add to that, it's not just the blacks. It's every group of people in America are an economic negative overall besides whites. I mean, hello, what's going on? Why is that? Well, let's look at their culture. You see them drop trash on the ground. They don't give a crap. They just drive on. They don't care. Why don't they care? This is not their nation. They don't care about America. They're riding our backs like we're some freaking turtle in the ocean. Like, they don't care. We have to end this. We have been paying reparations this entire time. And it's not just with them. It's also the Hispanics or the Mexicans. Not all Hispanics, I know. And not all blacks, I know, but it's also the Indians. It's also all of these other groups. And people say, well, no, Indians, they have the highest medium income. Yeah, but they're still an economic negative. Isn't that weird? Isn't that really crazy? Somebody must be lying. Oh, it turns out they actually are lying. 90% of the Indians that come into this nation lie about their income and lie about what their skills are in order to immigrate here. They are here illegally just as much as the people out picking fruits and mowing your lawn.
you just laid out how us white people are paying reparations every day, right? And then they want to slap another flat rate on top of us with our tax system as well. Look, you go outside, you have city buses clogging up our streets. And then people say, oh, well, the reason why the U.S. doesn't have good public transport is because Europe's way smaller and we're way bigger. Yeah, well, we also trumped them 10x in GDP. So how come we can't get as good of a system? It's because the people that are riding them screw it up, right? Do you ever go on a public city bus and you're like, wow, this bus is just so clean. Wow, the people in here are just so ambitious. No, it's we put in the infrastructure, they ruined it, and we can never recover it. And so people say, oh, well, let's just throw more money at public infrastructure. Let's just throw more money at education. That's the worst thing you can do. And I do have to agree with some of your viewpoints of broadening down the brush of everybody being allowed in is not a good thing, right? And conservatives, boomer conservatives, are at the worst part of it because they were so groomed these last 10 years to broaden the brush to everybody, and it's really just led us into decay going into the 2020s.
What they do in their bedroom.
Yeah.
But, to your point, I do want to mention really quick about, sort of like the allegations of me being a Nazi. Like, what are Nazis? They're socialist, right? And a lot of the boomers will go, we don't need public transportation. We don't need a train. We don't need any help from the government. It's like, hold on. The government does play its role in certain things. Like, we didn't go to the moon because, a bunch of private companies decided to get together and want to go to the moon and take a picture. We went to the moon because us as a nation spent our tax dollars on going to the moon. Matter of fact, most big things, the Great Wall of China wasn't built by privately funded businesses. It was funded by the government. Most things in society that are giant and grandiose are funded by the government in some way and propped up by all of the good private businesses on the backhand. Now, to you, that sounds like a Democrat. We need help, too. There's poor whites that also need help. I hope you don't think J.D. Vance is going to do that for you, though. If you read his book, he thinks that white people have no excuse to be poor, but minorities, now they do. And he also thinks whites are just the ones that are poor are extremely stupid and dumb. Coming from a family who is middle class and white and having all my employees or, all my people around me that are probably not as wealthy, that's not true one bit in the slightest. And they don't. Here's the thing. Our culture says if you make $1, don't get EBT because, look, our taxpayers pays the EBT. They don't have food stamps, right? But they're going to work and working their butts off, and they go to McDonald's or whatever it is to work, and they don't get EBT. Whereas everybody else works these cash jobs, still gets EBT, still gets the free birth at the hospital that costs $30,000 per birth. All of these things, and it's all weighing on our system. Whereas the poor whites, we're almost so stupid and we love America that we're doing all these things to make sure that the tax is not too high. And then you get a Democrat screaming in your face that you're like J.D. Vance, who's a secret Democrat, saying that, oh, we're just especially stupid. No, screw you, J.D. Vance. You're fat. Your wife's an Indian, and we literally can't wait to vote against you if it comes opportunity to in the primary.
And my biggest question to you, Chance, before we end this episode and conclude it is, let's say there was a of America that rose up and they asked you to be the leader of it. Would you say yes or would you say no?
Well, okay, so in name, no. Well, that's hard. That's a good question. I mean, the thing is it's a national socialist. If you're saying if it goes by the 1930s, no. I'm not a socialist. I do believe in capitalism. I believe in a meritocracy from the bottom, right? I want people to compete to get the best of what, right now people say you can't do that because there's too many groups and they're all doing it. They have in preferences to their own groups and we don't. And so they're going to outcompete us. That is true. In the moment that we're in right now, we do need something to dismantle all of those groups and to, be preferential to us so that way we can then compete. But I would like a meritocratic system where we could sort of compete against me and you can compete, right? I like that. I'm not saying that the Nazi government didn't do that in some way, but like I said, there's things that I like about like for one, this is a big one. So he wanted to give every family that could bear children a loan to buy a home and a car. And then if you had 4 kids, it would pay off the loan. If you had 2 kids, it would pay off half the loan. If you had 1 kid, it'd pay off a quarter of it. That's the type of things we need to be doing. They give loans to everyone. The banks give loans to everyone, but they never are preferential to our birth rates, our Native American birth rates. And when I say Native American, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about us. They don't do that. Why is that? Well, because it happens to be that the people giving out the loans aren't even white and aren't even Christian. I mean, it's crazy. So, to answer your question quickly, no, I would not do that. I'm not and I would rename it maybe something, I don't know, something different, like the America First. I don't know. I would rename it something, but I do like the aesthetics too. So maybe the outfits would be similar.
I mean, look, if you could rock that drip, Chance, maybe you'll have a shot. Maybe you'll change your mind in the future. But what I would have to say is, when you talk about these 1930s policies and such, you mentioned that there were some things of Hitler that you liked, and some people will take that as an automatic, I'm not listening to the rest of what you said. What's stopping you from just coining those ideas of having fair loans, of giving out cars, giving out infrastructures for yourself, and not crediting a regime that most people hate? Why don't you just coin it as your own idea? I feel like a lot more people would be receptive to what you're saying. I think a lot of people wouldn't disagree with that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that is a media perspective I need to take into consideration, or the way to present myself online. I think it's because I'm also pointing out the whole thing of, I want people to think about when I do this and they go, how could this guy think like that? And then they start looking into World War II. Then they go, wait a minute, we weren't told the truth. That's my whole goal in doing it. And like I said, I'm not looking to be the political leader. I'm looking to be a influencer online, tell jokes, say the thing that no one can say. That's what I want to do. I want to be able to talk trash about Nick Fuentes and Donald Trump. I don't care. I want to be able to criticize everybody because that's what I like doing. That's what I do on my own. I'm a business owner. I'm very logical. I'm on the ground solving problems in the real world. And you get online and it's all this fakeness all the time. And I hate that. It's so annoying. Everybody's just so fake. So I like to come in and give some real perspectives of a real man in a real situation in the real world. We don't have that. Everyone has an angle. Everyone's trying to make their donors happy and do all these things. I'm tired of that. I want to come in and say, hey, I own a business. I've got employees. They're all legal citizens from my community. And I'm competing against companies that hire illegal immigrants that don't pay the taxes on them. And I owe 60 grand to the government. I mean, hello, it's what's not checking out here. And then I get online and Trump is saying that he's going to maybe grant amnesty to all these people. And then you find out Ronald Reagan did grant amnesty, and that the reason why we're non-white now is partly because of George Bush Sr. and the Immigration Act of 1990. Hold on. Now we're being betrayed by not just the Republicans, but the Democrats and everybody in the donor class in politics today? No, thank you. I will spend all my money, all my time, and all my efforts in criticizing these people and exposing them for the dirty anti-American rats that they are.
Chance Cameron Minton, It was an honor to have you on the show today. Thank you for joining the Common Cause. We talked about a lot of topics. You cleared up a lot of things. I appreciate you coming on the show, talking about everything that we did, and I hope to have you on in the future again, man.
Thank you so much. Enjoyed the show, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much. Everybody, thank you for watching The Common Cause. That was our 10th episode. I can't believe we're already here this quick. Make sure to check us out on the mentioned channels I mentioned at the beginning of the show. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. Love you all. And remember to put Jesus first and America only. Thank you, and God bless. America is compromised. The mainstream media won't even touch certain topics. American churches are being bought out by Israel. Israel-backed PR campaign targets 38 Arizona churches. ICE is being attacked and assaulted in the streets. Man arrested for throwing Molotov cocktails at federal facility in brazen anti-ICE attack. College Republican vice presidents are being shot on college campuses. Alabama's Ella Cook killed in Brown University shooting. This is not an America I know and love, and isn't an America that I want to move into the future with. The American people have an air of grievance. This is your way to express it. We are the common cause, we are the common people, and we only put America first.